serious, people that have willingly engaged in incest, why? Has your life changed because of it? Last year's Nye, I started to engage sexually with my first cousin. She was 16. I was 17, male. At first, we just made out. But it slowly progressed to hand jobs from her and fingering from me. Soon, she was giving me BJS and well, we wanted to do more but we couldn't find a way to do it without getting noticed. This year, though, we worked it out and managed to do it. We did it 2 times while we were drunk. I can't say I disliked it or I feel guilty or anything. It is amazing. We are both horny as frick. She's hot and thinks I'm hot as well. I only see her once or twice a year. But I always look forward to it. I don't give a shit. Does this count? My third cousin had an obsession with anal sex and had me regularly frick her in the ass. We didn't even know we were related at first. We were friends at the time who had a talk about sex and decided to frick for fun. But after we found out, though surprised, we regularly made trips to O-Ring Plowtown. Still fantasize about dad ass to this day. I'm counting step siblings. It just sort of happened. Our parents got married and a couple years later we still hadn't developed a family bond of any sort. Still haven't. It started when a friend was over and had a huge crush on me. So they crash in on me when I'm just relaxing in the hot tub. We also had a pool and it was late fall so it was super cold. So a dare happened to switch back and forth between the pool and hot tub. This started a game of truth or dare and things got a bit sexual. Stuff like being naked in the bubbles of the hot tub but we couldn't see anything. Then stuff like sitting on my lap and whatnot. Nothing more happened that night but a couple days later we are both in the hot tub and start daring again. Things start to go the way they went before but again nothing. My mom and her dad went to sleep super early so we could really do this whenever. The dare started happening out of the hot tub and in the woods and from there it began to escalate. Double quote. I dare you to jerk off. Or, I dare you to take all your clothes off. It just kept escalating until we just sort of grinded on each other. We were both 13, until we both came. That happened a few more times because neither of us could get a condom and then I stayed at my dad's all summer and we stopped doing that stuff. We never mentioned it to anybody and as far as each of us know the other has forgotten all about it. TL. DR it escalated slowly. I had sex with my cousin when we were both 17. It was consensual and there were never any guilty feelings from either side. We only had sex the one time but I think it was because we both fell into long-term relationships shortly after we slept together. Our relationship never changed after we slept together. This was over 20 years ago and we still talk on a pretty regular basis with no weirdness. Okay, so 2 years ago-ish. My best friend hooked me up with her friend who was in a lot of my classes so I knew her a bit well since I basically knew everyone. We all were planning a double date basically. And that was in like 2 weeks. The 3 of us hung out numerous times and she'd always try to hold my hand or come onto me. I always jerked away because it always felt weird and I had no idea why. I just figured it's because I'm awkward and never really been in a relationship. This kept going and I just decided to end it because I wasn't comfortable. A week later she's taking pictures of my other cousin on my dad's side who I don't know that well because he kind of abandoned my mom and I and is in and out of jail all the time. Turns out, she knew the whole time we were cousins and thought I knew too. I guess my weird instincts were right. Welcome to Indiana. Also sorry for fricked up paragraphs. On mobile and still getting used to it. When I first read this I thought you meant actually getting engaged to someone you're related to. But keeping it serious. I made out with my cousin once when I was like 5. She was like 11 or something. Nothing ever happened with it. Also, I told my younger brother a few months ago and he said she did the same thing to him so there's also that. I've never actually engaged in incest. But got pretty close obliviously. I was maybe 12. Younger. Like. I was a child. And we'd usually go further south to my grandma's house to stay a couple of weeks while my parents did whatever they did. This was my grandmother on my dad's side of the family. So rednecks. I have a cousin who used to live next to my grandma's house. And she'd come over occasionally to play with us. She was a couple of years older, in high school. She would always try to wrestle with me and take me into the woods for a bedroom alone. I was completely oblivious to what she was trying to do and wouldn't go into the woods with her because I was afraid of bobcats and snakes. She never got to do anything to me because my grandma is awesome and a pretty keen lady, even to this day. Though, when we wrestled she usually got to pin me in an awkward position that I'd feel uncomfortable in. If I would have known what she was going for, I honestly might have accepted it, maybe a kiss at most, out of curiosity. But I'd definitely end up regretting it. I never thought I would get to share this. I didn't do it, but I have a story regarding this. A day after our prom ended, many of our classmates, imagine 2/5 of the batch, met the next day at a friend's home. The house was quite big and we partied hard until we reached the bed of the night. We all were playing a game where we would draw out 2 names from the bowl and both of them had to make out inside a spare guest room, and most of this cases ended up full-blown sex. This was the last round we played. Most of us were drunk. We pulled out 2 names. They turn out to be brother and sister. Now, being big idiots and pretty much assholes, we started to chant for them to make out and started to push them into the guest room. We were just joking and they just played along with it. So we locked them in and waited 5 to 10 minutes, then opened the door to end the round. We expected them to be angry and just sitting there to open the door. Instead, the brother was balls deep, instead her sister. It was the most gross thing you could ever see in your lifetime. Both of them quickly ran out of the house. Later we came to know that it was a first time event and heat of the moment situation. I met a friend last year who told me nobody their family knows nothing happened between them and it's turned very awkward between them. My wife's family has multi-generational incest, to the point that she only has 3 sets of great-grandparents. There are no signs of problems in her generation, and they all married way outside the family tree. I lost my virginity to my foster sister when we were 5 or 6. My older brother explained the mechanics of it, so we tried. I won't go into pervy details. It was not traumatic to me. Can't speak for her. She was already in foster care though. I doubt I was the trauma in her life. This was the early 70s. No idea where she is today. I let my cousin frick me from the age of about 12 until we were both 17. We were always playmates as babies, and when we started going through puberty I guess he saw how lonely I was and we were both horny. It was super awkward the first time it happened, but after it started it was a constant nightly thing when we were together. I am thankful for the experience because it was hard growing up an only child and he made it a little easier. Nobody will ever read this, but whatever. From the age of 14. My older sister 16 and I had to share a bed. We weren't rich. 2-bedroom house with 4 of us. Just after I joined secondary school my sister started to stab at me when I was asleep. Started off with basic things like her feeling my DCK while I was asleep, putting her hands down my trousers and just feeling my DCK, etc. Of course she thought I was sleeping. This went on for about 7-8 months until one day we got into a fight and I told her I'll tell my dad what she does. She denied it. At that point it kinda stopped. Then I started to try and initiate it by touching her. Cut the long story short, it became normal for us and we ended up giving each other oral sex until she moved out at 22. We're very touchy-feely with each other. We never had sex. But I always fantasize about us now. I can't freaking stop it. I had a sexual relationship with my cousin, M, for a few years. It started when I was 14 and he was 16. He stayed at my house for a week and we tried to have sex, but I was scared so we just did oral and I got fingered. He left the top of a condom wrapper out in the open and we almost got caught. Then for the next few years up until we were about 17 and 19 we would SXT. Make out. And if we could visit overnight and not just for a few hours we would have sex. I'd always felt lust towards him, and at 12 and 14 we did almost have an encounter in a pool. We went by ourselves and he said he couldn't swim, so he stayed pretty much on each other the entire time we were in there. My aunt let us share a bed that night and we cuddled. I don't feel bad or gross now, but we don't talk. He wanted a relationship, but we would have had to keep it a secret, and I've always wanted kids, and I know having kids with my first cousin could cause major issues. I had to break it off. I upset him and I feel guilty about it, but now it seems like he moved on just fine. I'm pretty sure my sister and dad had an incestuous relationship. They were obsessed with each other. She was like his house pet. She never had a relationship or a job. She just lived in the condo he bought her and got fat. She died 2 years ago and he still keeps her place the same as it was. Slept with my long lost half sister. At the time I thought we were in love. I confessed everything to the police. Ended up on the sex offenders register and completely ruined my life. That was 10 years ago. I still haven't and expect I won't ever recover. Yes. My brother and I engage in it every day. We've been together for 6 years and have 2 kids. It started because I was horny and just wanted to get laid. Turned into a relationship. My life changed a lot because of it. All the plans I had for after high school got thrown out the window. But it was worth it. My cousin and I. She's a 22-YO girl. I'm a 26-YO guy. Started texting. She's had a crush on me since we were tiny. I didn't think she was attractive until she was around 18. But she clearly has liked me for as long as we've been alive. The texting quickly escalated to sexting and flirting all the way to pictures. When we met face to face the next time at a family thing, she was with her boyfriend but totally ignored him and was all over me. It was a little awkward because we were clearly digging each other, but it seemed like her boyfriend could tell. If he wasn't there, I'm sure we would have figured out a way to smash. But nothing has happened physically between us yet. And I'll admit that the whole taboo factor has definitely made us more into it. I don't really care. It seems really convenient and I can't really ignore how strong the urge is. So yeah, that's been my experience so far. I'm in a long-term relationship with my biological half-sister on my mother's side. I'm a male. We didn't grow up together. We actually didn't meet until we were both almost 30. Never knew each other at all until that point. I had been trying to get in touch with her on and off for a decade or more. In a desire to meet the long-lost sibling and try to connect as family. I finally succeeded via online social networks and a bit of social engineering. We talked. Purely online. On and off for about 6 months with some mostly unacknowledged sexual tension making us both very uncomfortable. When we did finally acknowledge it, it came together very quickly and very powerfully. At the time, we were both in serious relationships. I was in a non-monogamous relationship and she was actually engaged and fully monogamous. My SO knew all the details, was 100% okay with it. Her fiance obviously had no idea. He agreed to meet up. We had a week of incredible sex and an insanely intense emotional connection equaled by no other relationship in my life. Romantic or otherwise. It was a heady week. Not long after that, we both ended our contemporary relationships, surprisingly mostly amicably on her end. Hell. Blood and fire on my end. No. I will not be telling that story. I moved to be with her and we've going good ever since. This is a true story. And I've attempted not to editorialize. I am a writer by trade. So some unintentional embellishment may have snuck in. I'll answer some questions. But probably not in a satisfactory way. This relationship is absolutely illegal where we live. And a very select few people know about it. My girlfriend has a mild crush on her brother. I realized it at some point, and since we are quite into roleplay and BDSM, I've been fricking her for almost a year while she screams her brother's name and she really likes it. Not just fantasy. I've talked to her about it outside sex and she really likes her brother and would frick him given the chance. Her brother is hot as frick, 2 years younger than we are, and he is the typical gay guy completely blind to his own gay side. He has a girlfriend and everything. Every time he acts manly my girlfriend gets wet, but most of the time she can handle it by looking at him like a gay guy. I've been trying to push her to show more of her body when he is around and to test the ground, but without luck. She still sees a gay guy and that relaxes her. Alright. Throwaway time. I have talk stories. One is significantly less consequential than the other. A while ago, I was dating someone. As much as she wanted it, I was hesitant about taking that extra step, for reasons that will become apparent in the next story. Later, I'm talking to her mom, who I thought was a family friend. Turns out, she, the mom, is my third cousin, and I was pajama pants away from giving it to my niece. So that's the fun story I tell around drinks. Now for the serious one. When I was younger, I was very close to my cousin. Let's call her Sarah. My oldest cousin is 30 years older than me. And my youngest is 24 years younger. I'm 23 now. So with those massive age differences, it's hard to really bond with anyone. But Sarah and I are really close in age. And thus bonded a lot. We watched TV while intertwined with each other. We always sat next to each other at the table or in the car, or on top of each other, depending on how much space there was. We slept in the same bed, holding hands. And we also had a lot of alone time. And we spent that alone time in each other's arms, under the covers, sucking on each other's faces. I mean, I was kissing her normally, but her kisses were really wet and open-mouthed. Definition of face sucking. Side note. According to her boyfriend, she still kisses like that. I'm not sure when this started, because we were that young and memory doesn't go that far. But I can pinpoint that it was already a regular thing before her brother was born. She was 4. I was 5. This continued for years. I lived away from my extended family, so I only saw Sarah for a week or 2 each year. But when we saw each other, it was on like Donkey Kong. And when I didn't see her, that's all I would think about. I kept a picture of us with me wherever I went, and according to my brother, whom I share a room with, I would talk to her in my sleep. I was really truly in love with her. And she made me feel like she was in love with me too. Anyway, fast forward to when I'm 12, she's 11. We're on the couch in her basement, doing our thing. Still no sex. I've never had sex with her. And we hear our grandfather coming down the stairs. She whispers stop. And I pull away and we continue playing Mario Party on her GameCube. And that's when it stopped. We never slept together after that. We never cuddled. We never kissed. That was the end of it. But that was not the end of my feelings for her. As I grew up through middle and high school, I was still borderline obsessed with her. I got into a few relationships in high school. But whenever I'd get close, whenever she'd snuggle up, I would always remember Sarah, leading all my relationships to end in disaster. I tried to pick up my life as best as I could, shove those feelings deep down inside, and move on. I got accepted to my dream university. But one night, while I was talking to Sarah, she asked me to move to her city for uni. And like a freaking idiot, I did. I rationalized it. Of course. She started calling me her brother. So I thought, if I could be her brother, if I can be there when she needs me, then I can make her happy. And that's enough for me. So, that's what I did. I became her brother. I was her shoulder to cry on. I was the solver of her problems. I've had to break up with guys for her, because she doesn't like confrontation. And this is how things have been going for about 5 years now. I haven't been able to pursue my own relationships or opportunities, because I'm always at her beck and call. And every time I try to leave, she makes a puppy dog pout and my insides melt. And that's how I've become stuck. I'm stuck because I'm in love with my sister, and she doesn't know. About a year ago, we talked about our past for the first time. I let her steer the conversation because I learned early on that she doesn't remember most of what happened. She remembered that we were close. And she remembered one instance when we were physically intimate. And she remembers her mom getting mad at her because she wanted to marry me. Our parents probably chalked it up to kids being kids and didn't investigate further. I hope having not asked her or my parents about it, I didn't have the heart to tell her that there was more, nor about the feelings that I had during that time, nor that I still have those feelings for her. It's just something that happened, and I'm going to let her keep thinking that for her own safety. Fast forward to the past months. Her apathy has gotten the best of her. Her family life, social life, and professional life are slowly falling apart. But it's okay, because her brother is always there to save the day. Meanwhile, my own life is in shambles because I'm constantly rushing to her. Plus I'm hiding my shambles from her. I know it's stupid and hypocritical, but I love her. So that's what I do. Monday, yesterday, I enrolled myself back in counseling. I know what my problem is. I just don't know how to fix it. And after a lot of coincidences this week, including finding this thread, and the equally appropriate "What's killing you?" thread, I finally butted up to post about it. Posting here is not gonna solve my problems, but it'll help to finally tell someone. I fricked my sister. I wasn't a virgin. I guess she wasn't either. She was 14 and I was 17. Even though she was only 14, she looked 18. A real popular girl at school. And I'm also attractive. I was sleeping in her bed because she wasn't home. Her bed is way more comfy than mine. So I kinda did that a lot if she wasn't home for the night. But this time she came home in the night. Normally she should have arrived the next day and snuck up with me in bed. We were spooning but I was still asleep. I woke up and felt her ass against my penis. I got hard and she kept wiggling her ass against my penis. Next thing I know I was fricking her doggy style. She had an orgasm. I didn't. Took maybe 5-6 minutes. I stopped and only then kinda realized what the frick I was doing. I ran to my bedroom and covered myself under the blankets with a huge shame feeling. I spent the whole night wondering if I upped her or if she actually wanted it. The next day she acted normal, but I couldn't look her in the eyes. Huge amount of guilt. But she was definitely more sweet to me than average because normally we argued and fought a lot. We didn't have a fight or argument since then. I felt shame for years. Even though I really got the feeling she also wanted it. The guilt was so much. That happened over 10 years ago. We never talked about it. It's a closed deal for me. I had to live with a huge guilt and shame and I was so confused that night and the following days. Every time I heard something about incest on TV or somewhere else I just froze. Now we're normal. If she's in trouble she'll call me and I'd be there. She's happy with the most awesome boyfriend I know. I'm happy with my pretty girlfriend.